Jennifer Negon, great to have you with us. Jennifer, we'll start with you and your thoughts on this lawsuit being filed by former National Chief RoseAnne Archibald.
Well, I had a chance to read the article on APTN, and it sounds like there's a number of issues that she's looking into, one of them being defamation. Being ousted after trying to fulfill her mandate. She did run on the concept of trying to bring a financial audit to the AFN. So I'll be interested to see where this heads. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of questions surrounding why she was ousted and what the current status of that audit is. Because, just because she's gone, does that mean that the AFN isn't still going to look into the financial transparency that so many grassroots First Nations people were asking for?
Right. Negon, you tweeted out that this lawsuit was predictable but avoidable. Want to elaborate on that?
The fact is that you easily could have let her finish her run as national chief. You either believe in democracy or you don't. And the fact is that this has shown not just that the AFN isn't really interested in democracy and the fact that the chiefs chose RoseAnne Archibald, like her, hate her, disagree with her or not, she should run out her run. She should finish her term as national chief. They can say things like workplace harassment. They can say things like that she wasn't acting appropriately. I mean, the fact is that if the United States can survive Donald Trump, the AFN could survive who's ever in charge. But the fact is, I don't think that was the issue. The issue was consistently and continually the fact that she was asking for financial transparency. And yes, maybe at times she was rough around the edges in asking for that and calling for that. It shows evidence that there's a toxicity within the staff. There's also a real toxicity within the relationship between the regional chiefs and the national chief. And that's precisely what led this to what was a predictable outcome, which will be this will be in the courts. It will likely be an out-of-court settlement because the fact is the AFN isn't transparent, doesn't respond to media requests, and then even the national chief now won't talk about or any of the other regional chiefs because they won't even make at this point a statement of defense because this is something that will be played out in the public, and the AFN doesn't have to report publicly because they're not a government, they're a lobby group.
You both touched on this, Jennifer. Do you think, though, that the forensic audit is still needed or will ever happen?
I definitely think it's still needed. I think especially, when it comes to any type of funding that is flowing through any of these bodies, especially as Negon has said, it's a lobby group. Where is the money going? And if there's nothing to hide, well, then what's the problem? I think by trying to double down and do everything within your legal powers to hide it is a problem. But not even legal powers because they're not the ones that launched the lawsuit. But when you have a national chief that is running on financial transparency and bringing an audit to this national group, and then quickly she's ousted before her term is even up, that raises a lot of questions for First Nations members across the country on whether or not, number one, the AFN is effective, and number two, why are they trying so hard to get away from an audit?
The court proceedings here could bring out some interesting things, but like you say, Negon, you think this will probably take place outside of the courts and settle. Do you think, though, that this is going to continue to haunt the AFN?
It's impossible for the AFN to continue to do its work, and impossible for now National Chief Cindy Woodhouse, who's been implicated in the lawsuit, to have any legitimacy with any supporters or those who are a very significant contingent of the AFN who were maybe not always agreeing with RoseAnne Archibald, but certainly calling for a lot more transparency in the organization. Even since the beginning of Cindy Woodhouse's time as National Chief, this has just been a specter that continually is in the background. And if anything, this was a predictable outcome to have a lawsuit, but hopefully will bring some kind of closure to that issue. I think all of us who are invested as First Nations people want to see the AFN do its work, do its advocacy, not represent us, but to stand beside our First Nations and be able to get some of the really crucial issues done, whether it be lobster fishing rights in the East Coast, whether it be negotiating renegotiation of treaties, or this tremendous issue involving climate change that our First Nations are dealing with, and the fact that there's a continual movement to open pipelines and to open resource development on First Nations territories. And if there is a change in federal government, I can promise you that this federal government, while friendly to Indigenous rights, the next federal government, if it is a conservative government, might have a very different tone, and we will need a strong advocacy body. So the AFN needs to get its ducks in a row now.
Well, we'll see the AFN gathers again in just a few weeks. Niga and Jennifer, appreciate you taking your time.
Thank you.